People need to stop playing ignorant because, yes, Mexican music was influenced by a lot of different cultures, but all the fun things like the rhythm, the style of music, the beats, all of that we got from Africa. So stop playing.
Hi lovelies, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Belinda Burrs or Belly Dirt channel. Don't forget to please subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications so that anytime I upload videos, you will be the first person to be notified. To my returning subscribers, to those people that share my videos, leave commentaries, and educate each and every one of us, you guys are the real MVP. So lovelies, I'm gonna be your today's host, and I have so many statistics to put up here, and we are gonna come out to talk about it. Alright lovelies, let's dive into today's video.
Music is African. Brazilian music, Dominican music, all the music is African music. So, you getting on the Afro beat now. I've been in Africa. They've been doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? It ain't new. All the music is African. You know what I'm saying? Latinos are black. It came from the motherland, Africa. Sometimes Latinos might even identify themselves with African and black culture more than black people.
How does reggaeton go from this to that? Today, we're talking the whitewashing of reggaeton and how it went from black to white in less than a generation. My name is Nidia Simone, and I'm the founder of Black Tina Media, where we amplify Afro-Latino and Afro-Caribbean stories in media and art. El General, who was born Edgardo Franco, is the originator of reggaeton. He was born in Panama and has Jamaican ancestry. If you know, you know. We've talked about this before. Panama Canal. Yes. Okay. So basically, he shifted the world when he created reggaeton. His first album, Estás Buena, went diamond and sold over 100,000 copies in Panama alone, which was a big deal, especially for a country with only 3 million people. Even the president at the time, Guillermo Endara, publicly praising him for putting Panama on the map. His music narrated Black Panamanian life from Canal Zone inequality to colonial resistance, as well as misogyny. Sorry, I gotta say it. The music was extremely misogynistic, and that carries to today. In 1991, he brought the sound to Puerto Rico. Yeah, because they didn't have it before, so he brought it. He performed at Caseríos, which are basically like housing projects, and really it was rooted in Blackness. It was rooted in a lot of things, but very Black. And he inspired a lot of the people that we love that are the classics today, like Playero, like DJ Negro, and we're going to get into like Tego and how in Puerto Rico they felt like the music was for the poors, for the Blacks, and they didn't even want to play it on the radio. Tego Calderon is an Afro-Boricua artist, but Tego did not have the same experience as El General. Tego talked about police brutality, and he made his sound specifically about the Black Puerto Rican experience. However, Puerto Rico used laws to ban the music. Reggaeton artists like Tego were often rated under anti-vice laws, noise obstructions, and even if there were no drugs found, the police would keep coming back. So he came up around a really rough time and even says if you were Black, they didn't want you to exist. Fast forward to today, where all the top reggaeton artists are white men and women. It didn't happen overnight, but it happened really quickly. Come to my webinar, June 26th, if you want a more deep dive on this information. Of course, I can't get into all of this in under 3 minutes. Link in bio, in my IG bio. So come through.
I'm a really big hater of Afrobeats that are made by people who are not Black. For example, K-Afrobeats. What is that disgusting? Get that out of my face. But another type of Afrobeats are starting to gain prominence that a lot of people are starting to like is Latino Afrobeats. It's Afrobeats being made by Latino people who most of the time aren't Black and who aren't really contributing to that Afrobeat space or really care for it. They just like the sound of it. This leaves a really bad taste in my mouth, first of all, because reggaeton, which is like the biggest genre of music in the Spanish-speaking world, is a genre of music made by Black people but the contribution that black people have in that genre is constantly ignored. And the black artists who make Hispanic music are always ignored, and they barely get any coverage. I have no issue with African artists working with Hispanic artists who are not black. My issue comes in is when those Hispanic artists make African music, but there's no African in there at all. It sounds crazy, but I think that Afrobeat should be a genre that is only really for black people or made by black people. I do think it's really weird that we're making Afro beats, but there's no Afro in the beats. You know, that's weird to me. I'm sorry. There's a thing that happened a few years ago where Afrobeat started gaining prominence, right? And people who listen to reggaeton were like, oh my god, like you're copying reggaeton, how dare you? Forgetting that Afrobeats and reggaeton are both genres made from black people, from African descended people. Like, of course they're gonna have similarities, you know? Push out the black people in a genre that was made by black people. You ignore the black people who are in that genre, and now you're trying to take from another black genre. Is that not crazy? Is that not crazy? And I feel like the reason as to why a lot of African people don't know about this and what's going on is because a lot of these African people don't know Spanish like that. As a Spanish speaker, I've been wanting for years for there to be Afrobeats in Spanish, and the thing is, there are like barely any, like I'm not even kidding when I say this, there are like 0 artists who are black who are making Afrobeats music in like Spanish-speaking countries. Like, it's very small. I can't name on my hand how many Afrobeat songs from black artists that I have that are in Spanish. Like, it is actually so small. There is this one new artist coming out. Her name is like Suzette. She's making like African music in Spanish. It's actually really good. I think y'all need to check it out.
I will always support African Americans in wanting to gatekeep their culture because the erasure is real. Gatekeep hip hop, gatekeep R&B, gatekeep your culture, period. As an Afro-Latina, like, trust me, I know firsthand the erasure is real. For context, Latino music such as like reggaeton, salsa, bachata, just to name a few, are historically black Latino music. They have their roots in black Latinidad. And as a result, the artists that used to have the biggest impact and largest visibility in these genres were black Latino artists. Fast forward to today, the artists with the biggest impact and the largest amount of visibility in these genres are white Latino artists. It's so bad that they have started to play in our faces. They gave J Balvin about 2 years ago Afro Latino Music Artist of the Year award. This Conquistador Cruz, this direct descendant of Christopher Columbus, accepted and was awarded Afro Latino Music Artist of the Year award. I will never let this go. Now, I'm not saying we don't have Afro Latinos that are very, popular today still in these music genres, as we should, but they do not have the impact nor the visibility that the white Latino artists in these genres have began to receive. It has gotten so bad that there are now Spaniards winning Latino Music Artist Awards. Spaniards. And it's honestly just so sad to see like the erasure in fucking real time. Like our music, like we had salsa songs that would sing about, the impact of slavery in Latin America. We used to have music that would sing about and talk about the beauty of black Latina women. None of that exists anymore for the most part. So yeah, gatekeep.
I've been researching and listening to different African music genres recently because I realized that I love their music. And I was like, oh my god, there must be more than Afrobeats and Amapiano, right, in Africa. So I started looking into it, and there's this very obvious similarity between African music and Latin music, obviously because of the slave trade, and a lot of Latin music mostly is derived from African music. This is a very famous traditional Santeria Cuban song, and you can very obviously listen to the African origins.
La pasa pendiente a la gente, cuidado si te quema, ponte palo tú.
A lot of the slaves in Cuba were brought from the Congo, so there's a lot of music from the Congo that translated now into Spanish, but they still use basically the same instruments. So yesterday I learned about Sucos music. I'm sorry if I'm like butchering it, but it's basically the sound of the Caribbean. So Sucos, I'm so sorry if I'm saying it wrong, is It originates from the Republic of Congo, which is where a lot of Caribbean slaves were brought from. And it's very obvious that this is the music of the, like, it's kind of like, it sounds very Caribbean, right? But it's actually from the Congo. Another genre that I learned about is mbalax. I'm so sorry if I said it wrong again, but basically this genre is from Senegal, and it sounds a lot like bachata, and bachata originated in the Dominican Republic. A lot of slaves were brought from Senegal to the Dominican Republic. So listen to this. Do you listen to the bachata? Well, it's actually not, it's mbalax. So from that, I can gather that the Senegalese people brought bachata, that type of music, to Dominican Republic. I really don't want to butcher this, but then there's this music, and it sounds like this. So it seems like a lot of English music has been influenced by this. Like, that reminds me of like the music that they put in front of like Take Me On and stuff, right? Like, it's obviously not the same, but you know, I feel like they got inspired by this. I don't know if I'm just like making shit up, but this is what I'm hearing. This is a genre called kawaito, and I'm gonna play it. It literally sounds like dance hall. Oh my god, they really have delirious music. Anyway, that was from South Africa. This is Benga music from Kenya, and I hear a lot of these tones in like Cuban music and stuff. This is old Congolese music, and tell me you can't hear the influence that Latin people got from their music. Hold on. And then that song that I showed you in the beginning, that was like the Cuban traditional song. Look, this is traditional Congolese music. It is mostly their black or mixed communities that make this kind of music or listen to this kind of music, although it has spread to the white Cubans as well at this point. Like, it's a part of their Cuban culture. It just makes me think like how strong the people were in their identity and their belief and their culture to have been brought as slaves, tortured. Literally, they tried to erase everything about them. They tried to make them Christians. They tortured the shit out of these people. And still, their culture and their religion is the one that reigns in Cuba. Santeria is very widespread in Cuba. This music is very popular in Cuba and the rest of the Caribbean countries, and not just Caribbean countries, like, you know, all Latin American countries use tones from like African music. I just find it so interesting how the diaspora was able to keep their culture and religion so alive, because if you think about it, like, there is a lot of kind of animosity between like mainland Africa and the Caribbeans, or the same with you know, South Asians and then Trini and Guyanese people that have South Asian ancestry. Like, they don't really consider them, they're like, oh, you're not really African, or you're not really South Asian. Whereas these people that have been away from their homeland for generations are still listening and to the music and like practicing the religion and keeping it very much alive. Like, Guyanese and Trini people, they have chutney music. I'm not sure if it's from Guyana. I think it's from Guyana, right? They have chutney music. If it's from Trinidad, I am so sorry. Please don't beat me up. I know there is some serious situation going on. If you're the whole Trini guy, please. I'm so sorry. But chutney music is very like evident that it's you know, old Bollywood tunes. It's not like they speak Hindi, but they do practice Hinduism and they still listen to the music. Same with these like Santeria or voodoo in Haiti, or New Orleans voodoo also. All these religions were derived from an African religion that is still it's still practiced in Benin, and it's called Voodoo or Voodoo. But that's where all these other derivations came from. So I don't know, I just feel like yeah, it's a little bit modified because they were literally enslaved by Christian people, but like they managed to keep it alive very much. It's just sad that now there's this huge fear of voodoo because the way it's looked at is very demonized, and like I'm sure there's bad things that that happens. At the same time, it's kind of like I feel like when institutionalized religion came around, they basically were like every you are wrong, everything is voodoo, everything is brujeria. And I just feel like they demonize them because if you really look into Santeria, they're just like any other religion. It's like any other religion that it's monotheistic but has deities. It's very normal. They have rituals. I mean, I don't identify as Muslim anymore, but like for Eid, we literally sacrifice cows every year. That's ritualistic. So it's the same kind of shit, to be honest.
Let's talk about the erasure of blackness and music, because the conversation around Latino Afrobeats, reggaeton, and black music history isn't just overdue, it's urgent. The reality is this: almost every major genre of music in the Americas, from salsa to bachata, from samba to reggaeton, from cumbia to merengue, has deep African roots. The percussion, the rhythm, the syncopation, the polyrhythms, the call and response patterns, all of it traces back to the African continent. And yet, when you look at the faces dominating this genre today, you will notice a glaring pattern. The more popular the genre becomes, the less visible the black artists who created it are. People love to pretend they don't know this history. They will say, well, music involves cultures mix. Yes, culture mix, but erosion is not evolution. Erasure is when the originators, the innovators, the cultural architects are pushed to the margin while others reap the rewards and global recognition. Reggaeton is a perfect example. Its foundation are in Panama and Puerto Rico, birthed by black artists, many of them Afro-Latino, fusing Jamaica dancehall with hip-hop and Latin Caribbean sounds. But who headlines the reggaeton charts now? Who gets the awards? Who the sponsorships, the magazine covers? Mostly white or white presenting Latinos. The Afro-Latino pioneers often ignore, underpay, under-promoted. It's gotten so absorbed that a couple years ago, J. Balvin, a white Colombian, a direct descendant of colonizers, was awarded Afro-Latino Artist of the Year. Let's pause here. This is not satire, this is not a joke. A non-black man accepted an award meant to celebrate Afro-Latino contribution to music. That is not just tone deaf, it's a cultural disrespect at the highest level. And this is not just reggaeton. We have seen Spaniards, yes, people from Spain, winning Latin music awards. That's like British singer winning Best African Artist because they made one Afrobeat inspired song. It's ridiculous, but it keeps happening because the music industry strives on whitewashing. Now here's where Afrobeat comes in. Afrobeat, the sound that has been striving in West Africa for decades, is finally getting the global shine it deserves. Wizkid, Burna Boy, Davido, Tems, African artists making history, and yet, right as Afrobeat is speaking, we are seeing the beginnings of the same erosion process that happened with reggaeton. Suddenly, there is Latino Afrobeats, a wave of Latin artists, many of them non-black, experimenting with Afrobeat rhythms but with no African artists in the collaboration, no acknowledgement of the general African roots, and no connection to the culture, just vibes stripped of the cultural DNA. Now, I am not saying non-black people should never touch Afrobeat. Collaboration is beautiful. Music meant to travel, but collaboration is not the same as extraction. The problem is when non-black artists take the style, remove the blackness, remove the Africans, and then market it as their own creative innovation. That is not collaboration, that is theft. And to make it worse, some of these same people come from genera that already erase blackness. Reggaeton being the clearest case, instead of fixing that erosion in their own house, they move into another black genre and start the same cycle all over again. For those who don't know the backstories, reggaeton and Afrobeat are cousins in many ways. Reggaeton borrowed heavily from dancehall, which is Jamaica, which is African in origin. Afrobeat carries the lineage of highlife, Afrobeat, and traditional African rhythms. Both genres are products of the African diaspora. So, of course, there are similarities, but similarities do not mean copying. They mean we are dealing with the same ancestral drum. Yet, a few years back, some reggaeton listeners accused Afrobeat of copying their sounds. Imagine accusing a general of stealing from a general that was itself built on the same African foundation. That's like accusing your cousin of copying your nose when you both got it from your grandma. And let's be real, a lot of African audience don't even know this is happening because the conversation in Spanish doesn't always make it across the African social media spaces. There is a language barrier. If you are not a Spanish speaker, you might not know how deeply this erasure runs in Latin music. As someone who speaks Spanish, I can tell you, Afrobeat in Spanish should be a striving, beautiful bridge between Africa and Latin cultures. But do you know how many black artists are making Afrobeat in Spanish right now? Almost none. I can count them on one hand. The space is wide open, but it's not black artists taking up the space. It's mostly non-black Latinos. That is why I get frustrated when I see Latino Afrobeat tracks blowing up without a single African artist involved. It's like walking into a salsa concert and finding out not a single musician on stage from the Caribbean or from an Afro-Latino background. It's not just odd, it's dishonest. We need to be clear. Afrobeat is not just a rhythm, it's a culture, a context, a history. The Afro is in the Afrobeat is not decorative, it's essential. To strip it away is to gut the general. I have heard people say, well, music is for everyone. Sure, music can be for everyone, but respect is not optional. You can't separate Afrobeat from African any more than you can separate reggae from Jamaica. You can't separate samba from Brazil African heritage, and you can't separate reggaeton from its black Mania and Puerto Rico pioneers. So, yes, I support African Americans when they gatekeep hip hop, R&B, and other black American genres. I support African gatekeeping Afrobeat. I support Afro-Latinos reclaiming their space in salsa, banta, reggaeton, and beyond. Because without gatekeeping, the cycle of erasure just keeps spinning. We have already watched Latin artists dominate salsa. We have watched reggaeton's black creators get sidelined. We have seen Spanish colonizers' descendants win awards meant for Afro-descendant people. We are not going to watch Afrobeat go the same way without saying something. To the non-black Latino artists making Afrobeat, collaborate with African artists, put them in the videos, give them writing credits, fly to Lagos, Accra, Johannesburg, learn the history, don't just take the beats, respect the roots. To the industry executives, stop awarding and platforming people who erase the originators. This is not diversity. When you replace black with white or light-skinned faces in black general, that's colonization, not representation. And to black people everywhere, African, Afro-Latino, African American, Afro-Caribbean, remember the drum is ours, the rhythm is ours, the creativity is ours. Protect it, document it, pass it down, and when people try to rewrite history, remind them there is no Latin music without African, and there is no Afrobeat without the Afro.
And if you watched up to this extent, don't forget to please leave me your own thought in the comment section of what you think of this video. And please do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying and harassment. We are just here for educational and informative purposes. So lovelies, why not just share your thought? Subscribe to this channel if you're yet to do that, and I will see you lovelies when I upload the next one.